All right, today we're going to look at making t-shirts, but before we can get to the part of actually printing t-shirts, we have to start with some basic supplies, and that includes having photo emulsion. So this is our photo emulsion here, and this is the sensitizer we're going to add to this in order for this to be activated. This is not going to be activated, ready to be an actual photo emulsion until we add this to it. And then we're going to use our popsicle stick to stir it around. We got to make sure we have a consistent color before we call it quits on that. This is my aluminum scoop coater. So this is what we're going to pour the liquid into, and then we're going to take our screen. I've got a blank screen right here, and we're going to use this scoop coater to pour evenly on the screen, okay? Not when it's sitting like this, but I'll put it in a different position, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But for now, what we need to do is we need to get this mixed up with this. First thing I've got to do with this sensitizer, I've got to fill this with cold water, and make sure you're reading the instructions before you do any of this at home. But I'm going to fill this 3/4 of the way full with cold water. All right, so I've got this full with water. I'm going to shake this up, and then I'm going to drop it in here and then start stirring. Okay, so they leave you enough room in here. See the blue liquid right there? They leave you enough room to add this sensitizer to it, and then put my popsicle stick in there and start mixing it around. It's going to change colors. Looks kind of really dark green right now. Pour the whole thing in because of the size of my container here. The whole thing has to go in there. Again, make sure if you're doing this, if you get the same materials, make sure that you're reading the instructions thoroughly, okay? So I'm just going to mix this up. It's going to look green, kind of like a light green at the end of it. I've got to get it all the way down to the bottom. Some emulsions come in different colors. I've seen red, I've seen blue, I've seen green. So it all depends on what materials you decide to get. See, we're starting to get that green. We don't want to have that marble effect, that right there. We don't want that. It's got to be even all the way around. So I'm going to keep stirring this till I get my even coating. And you don't want to shake it. It's a little thick, so you don't want to shake it at the end. You just want to stir it, get consistent. Again, see that marbling right there? We don't want that marbling effect. I'll make sure this is an even green. That just means that my sensitizer is not completely mixed in. On the instructions on this can, it tells us that we have about 4 weeks of storage if it's stored in a cold area. So I'll probably keep whatever I don't use in my fridge until I'm ready to use it. I'm probably going to do a couple coats and a couple different screens, and then if I run out of time, I'll be able to put this in the fridge, come back to it later, and coat some more screens. Okay. So we're getting a pretty good consistent green here now. And just want to make sure I can get as far down to the bottom as possible. Looks like I've got about that much room left. So I'm just going to make sure I can mix up without getting my hands. You make sure you don't get this in your eyes. This is a chemical, so probably should be wearing gloves. Take all safety precautions. Okay, mixed up pretty good. I'm not going to end up using the bottom stuff right now. So slowly start pulling back on my popsicle stick. Looks nice and even. I've got a good green. What I'm going to do is cover this up right now, because I don't want to expose it to the light. So when you use emulsion, and again, part of reading the instruction is you don't want to expose it to the light before you put your image on it. And we'll get to the image in a little while. This is just getting the emulsion put on the screen. So make sure If your lid's on tight when you're not using it, you don't want to dump that all over. That would be an expensive mistake. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get rid of the lights. I'm going to pour this emulsion, photo emulsion, in my aluminum scoop coater, and then I'm going to show you how we coat the screen. And then we have to store the screen in a dark place. So when you're doing the photo emulsion process, you have to have a dark area. I believe you can use a yellow orangish light for your light. What I'm going to do is just kill the lights, and I'm going to get a little daylight come through, so you'll see what I'm doing, but I don't want it to be exposed too long to any daylight, but I need to have a little bit of light on the for the camera. So I'm going to work quickly, but I'll explain things as we go. Okay? All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pour my photo emulsion into my scoop coater. I'm not going to pour in too much. I'm going to pour in just enough where I can pour any excess I can pour back in. Also make sure this is clean. You want to make sure it doesn't look clean, but it is clean. We don't want any speckles, anything, any chunks of anything getting on your screen. So I've got to work fast at this point. So once I pour this in here and I start putting it on my screen, I've got a little bit of backlighting going on right now, and I don't want that to be exposed to the photo emulsion for very long. I've got a dark place that I'm going to be storing these in, so as soon as I get this coated, I've got to hurry up and get it into a dark space because I'm not ready for the design yet, okay? And we'll get to that later. So I got to work fast from here on out. I'm gonna get a nice even coat in here. Get enough, kind of fill the bottom cavity up a little bit. And then get the cap back on this. And hopefully I can get a couple screens out of what I just put in the scoop coater. Okay, so I've got my scoop coater filled with my photo emulsion. I've got my screen ready to go, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly tip this onto the screen. I'm going to hold it up tight to the screen, and I'm going to dump and coat at the same time, so it should give me a nice even coat. What I'm going to do is try and get this side and then get over here and get this side and then turn it around and do the back side as well. I want it to have a nice good coating on it. You don't want it to be too thick, but you definitely don't want it to be too thin. And then you pull back on the scoop coater, nice and easy. All right, and then I'm gonna do another coat over on this side. And it's gonna kind of double it up a little bit, but that's okay. We're not gonna use the whole entire screen anyways. So that looks nice. I'm gonna just kind of even out the front a little bit and then turn it around, do the same thing on the back. Just make sure that I'm clogging as many holes as possible. That way our process goes nice and smooth, or the next process I should say. All right, now I've got to hurry up and get this stored away where the light's not going to hit it. All right, so we're in a dark place. We've got a nice dark setting. We've got to have a couple things. I do have a light on at the moment just so we can see where we're at, kind of. I've got a piece of glass here, and I've got my design here that I'm going to use on transparent paper, transparency paper. So, of course, you can't see it when it's nothing in the background, but as soon as you put something, you can see the image. And this is what we're going to use to put on our screen. So very important that we have the right lighting. I've got a 90 watt halogen bulb in here, and it is pretty close to 18 inches from the surface, which is where the screen is going to sit. And what I'm going to do is grab the screen, put it down, put the transparency on it, and then put the sheet of glass over that. All right, so what we have to do is we have to take our screen with our dry photo emulsion on it. So it's all dry right now. And we need to set it on a black surface. Okay. And I've got to work kind of fast because I don't want the light to just start burning this in. So we're going to take our transparency paper. So we've got our transparency paper, which you can't see the letter in here, but there it goes. See, right there's the transparency paper. And this is, if you're doing a multi-press, a multi-screen press, then you'll want to measure these and have these in precise areas, so that way your press can, your screen can be organized and precise for the other screens. Okay, after I get that on, I'm going to take my piece of glass. I'm going to take my glass here and just set my glass right on top of that. Okay, and then I'm just going to turn my light on, and I'm going to start basically solidifying all of the emulsion around the black. So the black lettering will be the only thing left. Okay, so now I just have to wait about 45 minutes or so, and you want to make sure that your light is at least, so this is at least roughly 18 inches away from the top of the screen. If you're not, if you're too close to it, this can literally burn the image or burn your screen, start to kind of melt the emulsion. You don't want that to happen, so you got to make sure you're at the right distance for this to work properly. So basically right now we're just exposing it to the UV rays. If we were to do this outside, it would only take 3 to 5 minutes in full sun to burn this image into the emulsion. And again, it's not really burning anything, it's just kind of crystallizing the emulsion that's on it, so the emulsion becomes hard, and the black area where the design is stays soft. So when we go to wash the screen off, the only thing that'll wash away is the area that's black. All right, and I'm gonna wait my 45 minutes and I'll be back. All right, so as you can see, the image has been burned in. All right, so then we have the final image, and it should be completely see-through. We shouldn't have any specks in there. If we see any last-minute specks, then we can go through, but a lot of this is just water spots. And so this is completely see-through, and that's where we're going to push our ink through. So when this is all dry and we go to make a shirt, we'll make sure, we'll be pressing ink through this. I'm gonna tape here so that way nothing gets through, any ink gets through there and we don't have any mistakes on our shirt. So there's our screen, which will last for forever. And we can print as many shirts as we want. All right, so the screen's done. I'm gonna do my first test print. I've got a piece of black paper here. What we need to do is you take some spray adhesive and you're going to spray just a little bit down on your surface. Okay, just a little bit, not much. We don't want it to get stuck completely. We just don't want it to peel up when we bring the screen back up. So make sure it's flat, it's down. We're gonna lower our screen, get it in place, and we're just going to do a test print. This is going to tell us if there's any pinholes that we need to clear up, if there's if it's not lined up for some reason, if the screen has to shift one way or the other, if it's not going to be straight on our shirts or whatever it is that we're printing. In this case, just a piece of paper, so we're just doing a test. Make sure the screen worked out the way we wanted it to. Okay, so we're going to use our palette knife. This is a palette knife. And we're gonna get our ink, and what we're gonna do is we're just gonna lay down some ink. I don't wanna put too much because this is just a test, and if there's something I've gotta fix, then I've gotta scrape this back up, and then I gotta put it back in this container, and then go wash the screen off, and then I gotta wait for it to dry. So it's a process, so we wanna make sure that we're as ready to go as possible before we do this to eliminate extra work, okay? But we have to do a test print. Has to be done. Otherwise, if I just put a shirt down and it's wrong, then we're gonna have a problem. Then I'm gonna be wasting shirts, and you don't wanna waste shirts. All right, so I'm gonna take my squeegee here, and you don't want it straight up and down. You don't want it completely bent. You wanna have just the right angle, and your screen needs to be above the surface, but not too far above the surface. That way, when you're done pressing, the screen should retract and lift off of whatever it is that you're printing on. Okay, get ready. I'm going to grab just a little bit, way it goes smoother, or a little more smoothly. I'm going to get a little bit of ink started. I'm going to put down a decent amount of pressure, and I'm going to press through. I'm just going to do one pass for now. Lean it up. This is a pretty clean print. So we've got everything turned out okay. There's some spots in here I'm okay with because it's the style of lettering that I've got. This is the font that I'm dealing with. It looks like I've got a pinhole in my screen right here, which can be easily fixed with a piece of tape or some screen block. But everything else is coming across all right. I'm pretty happy about this. So this is a good print. I'm gonna do one or two more test prints after I get rid of that spot there, and then I'll be ready to start on t-shirts. So awesome. All right, so that pinhole is gone. There was a pinhole up here. I put some tape on the other side, taken care of. All right, so what I'm going to do, my print came out okay. The fabric's reacting a little different than the paper, and the clogs, the holes for my logo are starting to get clogged. The ink is starting to dry up, so we have to make sure that's fresh in order to get good prints every time. So you might not be able to print forever and ever and ever, but this is a basic general idea. This turned out good for what I want it to. It's a good test on a t-shirt. And what I'm going to do now, because I don't have a flash dryer that I can just set over this and dry this and ink, heat set this ink. So this is heat set ink. So I'm going to take a heat gun. It's not a blow dryer. You can use a blow dryer, but I'm going to use a heat gun. You don't want to put it too close because you can burn the cloth, and then you can ruin the material, the print as well. So you just want to keep your distance. I go kind of in a circular pattern and get it all heat set, and then it should never go away. So you can wash it tons of times, and it should take a very, very long time for it to ever start to fade. So this will set it into place. All right, should be able to pull it off now. And then we have our t-shirt. All right, thanks for watching.